to be caught in the middle of hundreds of aliens that have been living on the moon for longer than anyone knows. According to all official records, the Apollo 17 mission in 1972 was the last time that man went to the moon. However, recently declassified footage in 2011 reveals that a secret Apollo 18 mission was sent by the Department of Defense. The footage begins by showing the interviews of three astronauts: John Gray, Nathan Walker, and Ben Anderson. The three astronauts talk about their mission. The mission is classified and organized by the Department of Defense. The astronauts aren't even allowed to tell their families about it. The objective is to deliver a special machine called the PSD-5, which the astronauts have been told is an early missile detection system that the US government wants to get to the moon before the Russians. They are also to collect more moon rock samples, which Nathan doesn't understand because, to his knowledge, almost 800 pounds of moon rocks have already been brought back to Earth by previous missions. Next, the three astronauts settle into their rocket and are launched from Earth. They watch the view of Earth from space in awe and prepare to land on the moon. John will be staying back with the ship to keep it in orbit, while Nathan and Ben will be taking the lander and spending 2 nights on the moon to complete their mission. Next, Nathan and Ben land on the moon, while John wishes them the best of luck over the radio. After landing, Nathan and Ben whip out a few handheld cameras to document the mission, while also setting up some cameras at the location of their lander, alongside the flag of the United States of America. They mess around and have some fun before starting the actual mission. Next, Nathan and Ben take out the PSD-5, and while they are doing that, a strange interference occurs in the video and the audio transmissions, while the power in the lander also fluctuates. Nathan asks Mission Control to look into it, while he and Ben drive a rover to the place where they are supposed to set up the PSD-5. The 2 astronauts set up another camera at the location of the PSD-5 and collect some moon rock samples. Ben reports that the rock sample feels very strange. Footage from the camera shows one of the rocks in the back, near a crater, moving by itself, unbeknownst to both astronauts. Interference occurs once again in the audio and visual streams, and Nathan is a little curious about its source. The 2 astronauts return to the lander, deposit the samples into a container, and call it night. As the astronauts are sleeping, loud shrieking, clicking, and scratching noises are heard over the radio, which wake them up. They ask Mission Control if this could be some kind of interfering signal from the PSD.
Whether you want to increase sales, generate leads, or build brand awareness, Google Ads can help you drive growth and boost your revenue. Just ask Tally and Twine, who used ads on Search, Shop,
D5, and they say they will ask the Department of Defense if it is possible. The astronauts go back to sleep. While they sleep, the camera outside the lander spots another moon rock moving by itself. The astronauts wake up, and while they prepare for another day out on the moon, John informs them that he will be orbiting the other side of the moon, and hence, he will be out of radio contact. Afterward, as Nathan and Ben are having breakfast, Ben notices that one of the rock samples that he collected the day before is out of the container, out of its plastic bag, and on the floor of the lander. Both astronauts are bewildered by how this is possible, as they very carefully bagged and deposited all the samples. They rebag it. Next, Nathan and Ben head out for the second-day mission of activating the PSD-5. But on the way to the PSD-5 location, they lose contact with Mission Control. Nathan assumes it's some momentary problem with the communication systems, but the radio contact does not return for quite a while. While at the location of the PSD-5, Ben notices footprints on the ground which are very clearly not theirs. They try to report this, but Mission Control and John are both out of contact. They decide to follow the footprints. While following the prints, they notice that they are going in circles at one point, suggesting disorientation, quite possibly from oxygen deprivation. After following the footprints for a little while, they come across another lander, which is revealed to be Russian. They are confused regarding why they weren't informed that there would be Russian cosmonauts here as well. However, as they approach the Russian lander, they realize that something is not quite right. The flag outside is down, and inside the lander is in a terrible state, as if something wreaked havoc there. Nathan checks the basic life support systems of the lander, and they appear to be intact. Next, Nathan discovers some bloodied uniforms and first aid kits in the lander, and he gets worried. Outside, Ben notices the footprints leading into a dark crater and decides to go in to investigate. While investigating, he reports that the crater is full of rocks and the ground is different down there. He says the ground is softer. Ben is about to return to the surface when he spots the decaying body of a Russian cosmonaut. Freaking out, he drags the body up to the surface to investigate. The helmet of the cosmonaut is broken, and Ben notices that there is a rip in his spacesuit. When he reaches in to check it out, the cosmonaut jolts suddenly. As if that wasn't enough reason to walk away, Ben reaches in again and finds a rock in the suit. The two are completely freaked out, but they are running out of oxygen, so they decide to return to the lander. At the lander, Nathan speaks to Mission Control and asks if they knew that there was a Russian mission here. Mission Control says that there have been no manned Russian missions to the moon since 1969, but Nathan says that it can't be a coincidence that their mission just happens to land close to a Russian mission. Someone must know about this. Mission Control says that this is actually a Department of Defense mission, so they know all the facts. Nathan demands to speak to them, and Mission Control says they will be here shortly. Meanwhile, Ben and Nathan theorize that the Department of Defense may have lied to them about the true purpose of this mission. Nathan and Ben go to sleep, and while they are sleeping, a strong interference occurs on the video camera outside the lander. A jolt is felt inside the lander, and Nathan is awakened by his helmet falling down. He looks outside and sees nothing. Next, Ben wakes up and notices that the flag they put up outside is gone. He theorizes that there might have been another Russian cosmonaut who went crazy and killed the one that they found. He suspects that that is who took their flag as well. However, John, who has now returned to this side of the moon and re-established contact, says that if that were the case, the other cosmonaut would have to be walking around the moon for 12 hours now. No suit can carry that kind of oxygen. Nathan speaks to a member of the Department of Defense, and he informs Nathan that they suspected there would be a Russian mission, but they had no confirmation of it. He also confirms that their intelligence suggests there was only one cosmonaut in the Russian mission, so Ben's theory is incorrect. This information puzzles the two astronauts even more, but the time for their return journey has arrived, so they decide to ask the rest of the questions when they are home. As the two astronauts are preparing to launch the lander off the ground, another strong, shrieking sound is heard on the radio. They decide to hurry the launch up, but right as they are counting down, something knocks down and drags the camera outside, and then a massive jolt is felt throughout the lander. Instruments inside the lander show that they have lost all communications and are leaking oxygen. Nathan assumes that it was a meteorite strike, but when he steps out, he finds no debris. However, he notices that the rover has been tipped on its side. Next, Nathan logs in a report that he has found signs of extraterrestrial life. Ben asks him over the radio what he is talking about, and Nathan says that he has found new footprints on the ground, but these prints aren't human. He notices that the side of the lander looks like it's been shredded by claws, and he finds the flag in the same state as well. Nathan hurriedly tips the rover back upright and adjusts the antenna, telling Ben to contact Mission Control or John. Ben cannot make contact, and then suddenly, Nathan says that something is moving. Ben says that he can't see anything, but Nathan says something is moving inside his suit. Then, he starts screaming and moving around hysterically. Camera footage shows a spider-like creature in Nathan's helmet. Ben rushes out to help him. Once outside, Ben finds Nathan lying on the ground with air leaking out of his suit. He is barely breathing. Ben helps Nathan into the lander and barely restores pressure in time to save him. Meanwhile, John and Mission Control are both trying to reach the two astronauts, but failing. Once Nathan is stable again, Ben asks him what happened outside, and a rather straight-faced Nathan replies that he just tripped, fell, and broke his helmet. Ben is confused and says that he remembers Nathan shouting that there was something moving in his suit. Nathan says that he doesn't remember that. Just then, Ben notices that Nathan is bleeding through his suit. Nathan takes off his shirt, and there is a big wound on his stomach. Ben feels it and realizes that there is something hard deep inside Nathan's gut. With no time to make the obvious joke because